friends, thanks for joining us. Do us a favor and smash that subscribe or follow button. It helps the channel grow. It really helps us get the word out. Benny, where can they find us on social media?
Yeah, you can find us at Ray Benny Sports. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Check us out also on Discord and Reddit, and leave us a rating on your favorite podcast provider.
And Threads. Don't forget.
Threads, yeah.
Threads. We're there. We're not active.
Does anyone use Threads?
No. It's like people who are at home and don't answer the door. That's what we are on Threads. We got some Winnipeg Jets talk. Of course, we got some Blue Bomber talk, some CFL talk, some NHL talk, some quick shots. But let's start off with the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets talk brought to you by Fahrenheit Airbrushing. Stand out on the ice, pavement, or the field with a custom airbrush helmet or goalie mask or any custom item that you want. A local Manitoba business with affordable solutions for any project. Check out Fahrenheit Airbrushing on Facebook or call them at 891-7431.
And tell them Ray and Benny sent you.
So Coach Bowness has decided to hang him up, to retire after 38 years of coaching. Not a total surprise, especially with the health concerns that he had and his wife had. Not that everyone saw it coming, but it's just not a surprise, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. I thought either way he would potentially be gone, even if he wasn't retiring kind of thing. So
what's your take on Coach Bowness's second go-round with the Winnipeg Jets?
You know what? It went a lot better than I expected. When he was hired, I thought he was just a bridge guy to kind of figure things out. I expected Scheifele gone, Hellebuck gone, like all that kind of stuff, right? So to bring those guys back, it was huge, but he kind of bridged that gap a little bit and got the team to kind of buy into a little bit of a better play defensively that they weren't doing. Guys like Scheifele ended up playing better D than they had ever played kind of thing, right? So better than I expected. But unfortunately, the playoffs did not go very well for him in both years. Last year, whatever, they snuck in as the 8th seed, playing the top seed who ended up winning the cup. This year against Colorado should have went better, but unfortunately it did not. So the playoff showings kind of tainted things, but overall the regular seasons, especially this season, were good on his end.
Yeah, I think his second go round in Winnipeg was successful, and I think he had the team on the right trajectory. I think he definitely deserved another season after going 98, 57, and 9 and bringing the team back to the playoffs back to back. There probably would have hopefully been some huge roster changes, but I guess we'll never know because he's gone. There definitely was a culture shift. Like there were a couple times in the second half of the season where a lot of fans were saying, oh, here comes the collapse again, like they did the year before. They're going to tank again, but they eventually actually got through the tough times, finished the regular season off on an 8-game winning streak, but again, they're eliminated quite early in the playoffs. So yeah, I'd say successful. That'd be his. I don't know if I can give him any more than that. It's a little rocky, some points of it, but successful based on record and being in the playoffs.
Yeah, some guys took their games up a notch. Josh Morrissey definitely benefited from Bowness those last couple of years. Solid defensively, and then started putting up the offensive number, was given some free reign to come up from defense and all that. The only thing concern for me on the other side is that the younger guys really didn't develop a lot, and he didn't have trust in some of those guys. Cole Perfetti, for one. I mean, the guy had 19 goals this year, but still couldn't find his way into the lineup close to the end of the year. Heinola was apparently getting a shot this year until he got hurt, but then he never got an opportunity at any point when he was healthy. Even though Schmidt kind of struggled this year, Pionk struggled quite a bit, and Stanley was still kind of hit and miss. I kind of look at it like Boston. Look at Boston. If you look at their lineup, and for one, and this is kind of a shot at Chevy a bit, because Morgan Geekie ended up being now their top line center. Guys from Manitoba, and he could have gotten Chevy could have gotten for $2 million, maybe even less, who knows, but he's top line center. So they missed the boat on that one. And now they've incorporated a lot of younger guys into the lineup, and they've made it to the second round of the playoffs. Like there's a couple of John Beecher, Bruzo, who wasn't even drafted, and Mason Laurie playing defense. He played only 40 games this year, and now is a solid contributor on that D, scoring last night too. So I wish he would have been able to develop a few more of those guys. I know a lot of the Jets guys prospects in the Moose are still around that 20-year-old range, but their D could have maybe brought in some other guys there or developed a little bit better. But like you say, Bowness, I didn't have high expectations. He exceeded my expectations. And hopefully he's changed the culture of this Jets, and the next coach coming in will have an easier time getting these guys to adapt.
Are you saying they should have brought in some of the younger guys in the system to play with the big team?
I feel like they could have, like, at least with, trust Perfetti a little bit more, man. I mean, you traded for Monahan and Toffoli and shoved Perfetti out. The guy had 19 goals. Like I said, I like what Boston's doing. They trusted their young guys to come in, and they're still trusting them, and they're in the second round of the playoffs.
Do you think the young guys on the Jets right now would have given them a better chance to beat Colorado?
I don't think they're beating Colorado anyways, the way they were playing. The whole game plan altogether, the way Colorado came out. Even McKinnon said it. McKinnon said it in the interview after the series was over. He goes, they were humbled. The Jets humbled them, beating them all 3 times this year, especially 7-0, that first game. So Colorado knew what to do, and they had a game plan where the Jets just didn't adjust enough. And maybe that's where Bowness kind of takes it on the chin a little bit. Colorado had a great game plan. Bowness couldn't counteract, and when he did, he still went back to the old way for that third period of game 5. So, yeah, it's a tough way to go out. But yes, he had great regular season.
What are you looking for from the next Winnipeg Jets head coach?
Well, talking about the young guys, I'd like to see someone that can start to develop some of these younger guys. Because the Jets are a draft and develop team, right? But if you look at their lineup, yes, they got a few guys in there, but a lot of their lineup is guys that they've brought in. And the other guys haven't really stepped up. Mason Appleton, what's he done? Not much. He's still lingering around on that third line. David Gustafson still hasn't really developed into a full-time player, even though he's been there now for a few years. So I'd like to see someone that can bring in those younger guys and start incorporating the Lamberts and all that stuff. I'm not saying just shove them in there even when they're not ready, but if you feel like they're playing well enough, keep them in there. Trust them that they're going to be able to continue to play and grow. That's what I wish he would have done more with Perfetti. And then defensively, figuring out yes, they were good defensively this year, but in the playoffs, they were exposed. And whatever Colorado figured out, that new coach is going to have to figure out how to stop that from happening again.
I think they need someone who's willing to make changes and isn't willing to try and put everyone inside a box and make them play this system no matter what happens through thick and thin. Like you kind of mentioned in game 1, how what is his name again? Bednar, the coach for Colorado, obviously made some huge adjustments to how they were playing from the third game they played the Jets to the first game in the playoffs to that second game in the playoffs. You see, they're constantly making adjustments. And, obviously they're an experienced playoff team, but the Jets did not make those adjustments in games 3, 4, and 5, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that they find a coach like that. Is there currently someone out there that you'd like to see as a Winnipeg Jets coach? Well, I'm going to take someone whose name has been out there a lot, and I'm going to go with Craig Berube. Obviously, I like what he did with the Blues when he took over the team and won the Stanley Cup. Anyone who wins the Stanley Cup, that'd be great on the resume. But he's also a coach that's known to see players as individuals. We're just talking about actually having players play in this box and maybe taking away some of their strengths to play in this system. He's known as someone who can acknowledge individual talents and how players play best. And maybe he has to be, player like Ehlers. Maybe he has to have an approach like he did with Alex Steen and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you got to play third and fourth line minutes. But while you're doing that, you're giving all out offensively and doing what best you do or playing at your strengths rather than playing the full minutes that you're playing and not being able to play that way for a whole game. So maybe you need a coach like that who can identify people's individual talents and still play within a system who has an aggressive forecheck, which they sorely missed against Colorado. So I'm going to go Craig Berube.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Berube. Like you say, with Ehlers is a different guy from Kyle Connor, right? But you have to let him play, and you have to kind of adapt some things to him and not force him to play a certain way. And so far with Maurice and Bowness, it's like they didn't know how to handle Ehlers well enough. Ehlers was great with Line but for the last couple of seasons, it's like, hey, maybe he can work with this guy, maybe he can work with that guy, and he still put up decent points this year, right? So I'm going to go with, there's a couple of not younger guys, but a couple other guys who not necessarily in the NHL that have been bandied about. One was Todd Nelson. He took over Edmonton for a bit after I can't remember which coach was fired before McDavid got drafted. He's done very well but the only thing with these two guys is not a lot of NHL experience. Done very well in the HL, won Calder Cups. Apparently he's very good with the young guys, player-friendly guy, but he can also put his foot down. So that will definitely help. Because the Jets are going to have to, they got a lot of good young guys in the AHL. Lambert, Chaz Lucius, Rutger McGroarty, when he starts to come in. These guys are going to have to start playing for the Jets in the next couple of years. So you need someone who can bring those guys up and not totally blow their confidence. The other guy I've seen is David Carl, who has no NHL experience besides some assistant here and there, but very good in Denver, winning in college, winning a couple NCAA championships in the last few years. So might be something interesting to look at with those guys, bringing in a fresh voice, someone new, but it's also risky with these guys because, you know, they got to win now. And, you know, the fans here won't like it if they bring someone in who ends up being like Claude Noel or something like that. So
Charlie Huddy.
And not Scott Arniel, for Pete's sake. Did you see what Mike Commodore said about Scott Arniel?
What?
So Mike Commodore played for Scott Arniel, I think Augusta's in Buffalo or something. So he ended up saying that Commodore on Arniel saying he's an arrogant piece of shit when he's in a position of power. Arrogance off the charts. He blew his first chance. He spent the last 15 years kissing ass and sucking balls to hang around. So, and then he's a loser. That's pretty scathing from Mike Commodore kind of thing. And he even went after Babcock before too. So,
well, he pooped on him hardcore. Name one thing the Jets. Name one thing. The statement is the Jets were blank from being more competitive against the Avs. Let's go back to the playoffs. So name that one thing. What were the Jets blank away from being competitive? And I'm going to go with special teams. The lack of competitive special teams. The penalty was horrible. It was worse than it was in the regular season. They were like at 62.5 when they were running at 77 in the season, which still wasn't good. It was bottom third in the league. The power play was a little better, but when they needed them to be, they went 0 for 7 like in a 2-game stretch. So, you know, shout out to Brad Lauer and the special teams performance this year. Nothing changed all season long. So, yeah, I'm going to say special teams.
And that's the thing, right? That's the loyalty of the Jets, right? When things aren't going well, they still stick with the guy. The power play special teams were terrible altogether this year, and they still stuck with it. Speaking of power plays, Dallas has already scored on the power play against Colorado too, so and they're up 3-0 in that game. So crazy there. I'm going to go with a competent game plan. We've talked about this. The Jets had no answers. Their game plan seemed non-existent. Colorado figured things out, and they've even come out and said it. The coaches come out and said it. Players have come out and said it. They deal a lot with analytics apparently over there, and they found things that the Jets were not good at, and that's what they attacked, and the Jets had no answer. So maybe a competent, better game plan would have helped the Jets at least compete in this series, but they look very outmatched.
What's your biggest takeaway from the Winnipeg Jets season?
Again, it ended up more promising than I expected. Team played well at times, but also pretty poorly at times. I like that some guys made some strides. We talked about Morrissey. Scheifele started playing a better game. Maybe we'd like to see Kyle Connor, commit to defense a little bit more. But yeah, I feel like some players did grow as the season went on, but there's still a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is they don't have the experience combined with the talent to make a deep push into the playoffs. They have a great talented team, obviously, like was it 4th best and however many points, over 100. But in the end, I really don't think there could have been many adjustments made, although there weren't any until the very end by Bowness, that would have made this series turn around or made them competitive to go deep into the playoffs. So yeah, I think in the offseason, they got to look for more talent. And that's so hard with the Jets in the free agency because a lot of players don't want to come here. But they're against Colorado, they're lacking at least speed and playing with size in their top 6 forwards. So especially if they want to sell tickets too, they need to get the horses that'll get them out of the first round. So yeah, that's my biggest take. They didn't have the experience and talent to make a push into the playoffs.
And that's the thing, though. You got a lot of young guys that are coming up now who don't have the experience that are going to have to fill some of these holes. Because, yeah, like you say, going through free agency is tough, right? Unless you're going to way overpay for some of these guys. Now you're losing Toffoli, possibly Monahan. So you still got to fill that second center role, right? And like I said, a guy like Morgan Geekie could have been a great spot for that. You have to look for those types of guys that can come in and fill it. They thought maybe Perfetti could do it last year, but he wasn't given enough opportunity. So yeah, you're gonna have to fill that role, and it's gonna be tough.
Out of the 8 teams that are left, How many of those teams is Mark Scheifele a 1C on?
Not well. It's funny because Boston has Geeky and then Carlo, right? You would think Scheifele should be able to take those guys, but those guys play well in the Bruin system. Not on the Rangers, not on Carolina. Who's the last team left there? I can't think of them right now.
There's Vancouver. There's Edmonton.
Yeah, obviously not Edmonton.
Not
Vancouver.
Colorado.
Vancouver probably not Colorado. Dallas. We got Jamie Benn there, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's not a. When you come to the winning teams, he's not a 1C on many winning teans.
No,
I don't know what I'm saying, and I don't know how easy it is to bring a 1C into Winnipeg, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, unless one of these draft pick guys turn into that 1C, you're kind of probably stuck where you are.
Let's talk about player acquisition. Trade Ehlers?
I love Ehlers. I like the player, but yeah, I would trade him. And for Ehlers' sake as well. I don't know what you can get. Like you're obviously not getting that 1C where you're talking about. Maybe you can get a 2C, or maybe you can get a much more solid defenseman that can play in the top four pairing. Look what Dallas has done with Tanev. Like maybe that was the better deal for the Jets, was trying to get Tanev instead of Monahan or Toffoli kind of thing.
Man.
And then they didn't even give up a first for Tanev, right? So
yeah. And like the big knock on Ehlers is he doesn't perform in the playoffs as many playoff games. And yes, playoff production has been an issue, but it has been an issue other than that 17-18 series since the Jets since the Jets swept the Oilers. They've scored 3 or more goals 5 times in the past 14. Yeah. That's not good for the whole team. So I wouldn't give up on Ehlers, especially when they say they're going to get a coach by the end of the month. At least wait until they get you got to wait anyways. It's playoffs. You can't make it. Yeah. But I'd say wait and let the new head coach at least get some input on it. You do have 1 year left, but I say if he's not playing up to what, then you get a decent trade deadline move that you can make, and then then you're probably restarting or retooling at some point. So why not keep him for now? Let the new guy play with him or coach with him and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, personally, yes, I would love to keep him. I'd rather keep him, but better maybe for Ehlers at this point mentally and all that stuff to be traded. But yeah, maybe the new guy comes in and he knows how to use these Ehlers, or he finds him a proper line mate, like line 8, kind of maybe bring back line 8.
Yeah, okay. Schmidt, buy out or trade? I say yes. If they can find a trade partner, of course. Trade would be optimal. Buying out Schmidt, sure, I guess. That'll give you the extra cash to maybe sign Demelo or Dillon or both. So yeah, I wouldn't be quick to jump on buying him out, but if they can find a trade partner, then yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if you can find someone to take him that you maybe pay half his salary, it depends what you have to give up to get rid of him, right? But I think his time is probably done here, and unfortunately, he's making over $5 million a year. So you got to get rid of that contract somehow, so that you could bring someone else in. So yeah, definitely, there's got to be a way to move Schmidt this year for sure.
And the cap's hit's not too bad. 2.7 this year or the season, and then 1.6 the following. Not too bad. Are you looking to sign Demelo Dillon both and?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends what they're asking for, right? Demelo's kind of dropped off a bit. I don't think he's your one pairing guy anymore, or should be there. So if you can sign him to be in your bottom pair or even that third, fourth spot, maybe kind of thing. But I'd be all over Demelo. Dillon, same kind of thing. But he's also turning 33. So you don't want to get into a long-term contract with him and have it turn into a Nate Schmidt kind of contract, right? Where it's kind of pulling you down a little bit. So they have to be smart on that end. But yeah, I would definitely like them to get Demelo signed, at least one of these guys. But the price definitely has to be right.
Yeah, Brendan Dillon's definitely not going to get as much as Schmidt. He's going to get maybe over 4, I guess. Maybe some team will give him. I think he's turning 34 going into the season.
Yeah,
but he's such a good locker room guy too. So it might be worth giving up that little extra bit, as long as, again, it's not too out of hand. I'd probably give him 4.5. Demelo,
yeah, but would you do it for 3 years? That might be what he wants, right?
Contract. So no, that's a 1 year.
Yeah, I doubt he's taking a 1 year contract for that. So
like, I guess he can look for a longer contract elsewhere, but I don't think he's going to get much of a longer contract, to be honest with you. He might get a 2 year somewhere. I'm guessing.
Could
I'm
be,
not
yeah.
a specialist. Demelo, I'd like to keep him on the squad. He's a right D, and he played all 82 games. He played second most minutes, but he does turn the puck over quite a bit for the minutes that he plays.
Well, that's
Not
why
necessarily in the Jets zone, but still for the
yeah.
minutes he plays, he gives up the puck a lot.
Yeah, and that's why he should not be on this top pairing anymore, right? That's why you can keep him as a depth guy, not a depth guy, but a 5-6 guy kind of thing, right? At a decent price. I mean, he's coming off a $3 million contract. He's not going to get that, but maybe he stays in the $2 million range kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
You also got to see, let's discuss the Pionk. What would you do with Pionk? He's got one more year at 5 something as well. And he's struggled mightily this year.
Very similar to Schmidt's, right?
Yeah. And he struggled mightily. He's got one more year. Like, I mean, obviously you can't buy out Schmidt and Pionk and then bank on these younger guys coming into play and all that stuff. But something's got to be done there as well, because he is not a top 4 pairing guy either, and should not be playing hard minutes against top players anymore, or at least after last season anyways.
Yeah, I don't think they can afford to buy both out. You can, but you can buy out 3 people in a year. But just to have 4 to 5 million clogged up, you know, especially when they play so close to the cap any which way, man, they got to find a way to spend that money better. Because when you're playing so much of the cap and you get knocked out, well, anyway, that's a different conversation.
And there's no one like Arizona Coyotes anymore to dump these contracts on for a draft pick, right? So
horrible. Jets fans, put your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's move on to some Blue Bomber and CFL talk. The draft just happened. Thoughts on the Bomber draft, biggest takeaways? You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, they went out, they drafted 4 offensive linemen, 2 receivers, a defensive lineman, a running back, and a long snapper. So they filled up their guys, and all these guys really have a chance to come in and compete for a spot. Mainly a lot of them on special teams. Besides the what's his first name? Giovanni Manu. Giovanni Manu. Like, he got drafted by Detroit, right? So he's not coming. But it's a great pick later on to take a chance on. They filled needs, really, right? And added some depth and strength. A lot of these guys are big guys. Even going by the first receiver drafted there, Kevin's Clericus.
Yes.
Feels like he is a Rasheed Bailey type of guy, right? He's going to come in great on start right away on special teams, and he'll be that blocker, that role that Bailey took. So it sounds like they're not expecting him to be in the top 3 receivers or anything like that, but he's going to come in and play a role for this team, and probably on special teams right away.
Yeah, he's going to be fighting for a receiving spot for sure. Like, you know, we just lost Brandon O'Leary Orange. Yes. But they have that KJ Hill coming from Ohio State that'll probably really fight for that number 4/5 spot. So, yeah, it'll be hard for him to get, I think, receiver reps. But like you say, he'll get some special teams opportunities big time, because their special teams was not very good last year.
Not at all.
And they got some good athletes coming into play special teams. Holy cow, I can say that.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was going to say that's the theme of this draft, was a lot of these guys are coming in to play special teams, right? Because there's not a lot of spots or holes on offense or defense, right? No. So a lot of these players drafted earlier on will be a special team guy.
You mentioned old lineman. I'm excited about this Gabe Wallace. Dude is 6'6", 344. And he showed some good athleticism at his pro day at University of Buffalo. He'll come in and learn behind some great vets and behind some great coaches on the offense. And who knows, he could be a player next season or in a couple of seasons. He's not one of those players that you have to, not many plug and play people in this draft.
No. Yeah, besides special teams. And I liked what TSN, Dwayne Ford and Jim Barker called him a big mauler and a road grader of Gabe Wallace. So, yeah, that's pretty exciting to see that kind of stuff.
I'm also excited to see, hopefully, A.K. Gassama from the U of M gets a chance to stick on the team. He's a smaller guy, but he's, you know, a story that everyone should be cheering for. He's a refugee who came from Sierra Leone during the Civil War. And he's a small target, but he has a lot of speed that can stretch the field. And if he gets time to develop, who knows? He might be like remember RJ Franklin?
Right, yeah.
If he can be a more consistent RJ Franklin, getting 500 yards, 40 to 45 receptions for a few years, the Bombers could have scored with this pick.
Yeah. I like their draft overall, and especially the depth now that they have on O-line, right? We were
Yeah.
kind of worrying because of Hardrick going, and why can't I think of the guy who just retired out of the blue there, who was supposed to take over on the O-line? Anyways, but yeah, so you added these guys, you added Wallace, you added Manu, you added, I'm not gonna get this name right, Vlal Huganadis, that they drafted later on in the draft. So they seem pretty set as long as these guys can come in and play in the next couple seasons, because they're getting older, right? Kolinkowski and Neufeld are pretty old. Bryant's up there as well, so it's gonna have some big turnover on that position in the next couple of years.
The draft pick we didn't mention, I'm sure there may be another one. We didn't mention any of the D linemen, I don't think. But the running back, Michael Chris Ike, a very interesting pick. He'll be in the Jets, I think, NFL mini camp, but will be at full camp, I think. Come Blue Bomber full camp, he'll be there. He will also possibly fill in at fullback, and he's also probably a wicked special teamer. So I'm excited to see him in camp.
Yeah, that was a thing on him as well. Tough dude with good size and speed who should contribute immediately on special teams. So a lot of their draft, or a lot of their, well, the first couple picks really focused on the special teams aspect.
Talk about running back. What excites you? What concerns you about the Blue Bombers running back room going into training camp, or going into the season, I should say?
Just seeing the next step in the development of Brady Oliveira. I mean, obviously he rocked it last year, was very good, excellent even. So I'd like to see now what he's going to do for an encore. Can he continue on that path, or our team's going to kind of figure out a bit of his running style and be able to stop him? So look, I'm excited about that. Obviously, if he gets hurt, we're in trouble with Augustine and was Chris Ike, right? Michael Chris Ike?
Yeah.
Jeez, can't even remember his name. We just talked about him 2 seconds ago. So the depth there, they added this guy, but the depth with Augustine, and we've seen Augustine come in and play well. So that would be my only concern, though, is I don't know if he can handle a whole season if something happened to Oliveira.
Yeah, I don't know about their other depth behind that. They have Chris Brown or Chris Smith. They have Ronnie Brown, who played for the Dolphins. Remember him?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Not the same Ronnie Brown. But yeah, I actually do have confidence in Johnny Augustine coming into that role. You're not going to get the same player. You're not going to get the same production as you would with Oliveira, but you have a diverse enough offense where you can spread the ball to different areas and not have Johnny Augustine have to be the workhorse as much as Brady Oliveira. So yes, it'll be a drop off. And, I'll give it probably a couple games before I really make judgment on that move. Hopefully it doesn't happen, knock on wood. Hopefully Oliveira stays healthy as ever. But, I wouldn't mind seeing Augustine. A couple years ago, when Andrew Harris was on his way out, I was like, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind Augustine getting the ball. Yeah. So I wouldn't mind seeing him get the ball if it came to that. Knock on wood, it won't.
He's an interesting case. Did he re-sign with the Bombers this year, or was he already signed with them? Who? Augustine. Did he sign a 2-year deal last year, or was he just...
I think didn't he re-up?
Maybe he did a 2-year deal.
I think he got his contract. Yes, he signed his contract this year, because when he signed, we were like, well, that's got to be a sign that Oliveira is close to signing. Because if they're going to commit to a Canadian backup, that means that Oliveira is probably going to sign as a starter.
I mean, I
think that was this year.
A lot of good running backs, obviously, on these teams. But I'm kind of surprised Augustine wouldn't have tried to go somewhere else to see if he could become the starter. But he just likes the situation here and get paid enough, you're at home kind of thing. So,
heck yeah, why not? He likes championships, maybe.
Yep.
So we've just found out that Nathan Rourke has been signed by the Giants. But if he was available, which CFL teams should make room for Rourke if he was available?
Pretty much all of them.
Really?
I mean, even, well, obviously not the Bombers. I would obviously stick with Colaros. But I mean, you get a young guy like Rourke on your team, he's there for the next 10 years, right? But what team in the East is set at quarterback that you wouldn't take a run at Rourke?
Oh, Hamilton and Ottawa. I wouldn't say all of teams for sure.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know sorry, go ahead.
Just because, if he gets a shot at the NFL again. He
Yeah.
could be gone, but I think especially Ottawa, just because they need to win now and they need to get butts in seats, and they have a decent receiving core with Ackland, Addison, and he knows Dominic Rhymes, that he'd be a great fit there. So I'm saying Ottawa, but I don't know if all teams. Definitely not Winnipeg. Definitely not BC.
Yeah. The thing is, if Rourke comes back to the CFL to play quarterback, I think that's done with the NFL. I don't think he's going to leave again in a few years, nor will the NFL give him another shot unless he comes and puts up Doug Flutie numbers and rips up the league kind of thing, right? So
He almost did.
yeah, well, exactly. He probably could come in, but I mean, look at it. He's not even getting much of a shot. You know, we all thought New England would be a good spot. We knew they were going to draft someone, but you thought, okay, he has an opportunity there, and then they go and draft two guys instead, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see with the Giants. I mean, they got Daniel Jones. Who else do the Giants have there? Drew Lock. So he's going to be tough spot to be there. He's going to be obviously maybe he's the third string guy there. You know, he's the emergency quarterback. So hopefully he ends up making out there and, you know, prolongs the NFL career as long as possible, makes some decent money, and ends up back in the CFL at some point.
For his benefit, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like Hamilton must be number one if he becomes available.
Yeah. Yeah. Hamilton would toss Bo Levi to the garbage dump as soon as possible if they could get Rourke. No question.
How much
I
of an
would.
impact?
Sorry, I would.
Yeah, obviously. How much of an impact will Christian Covington have with the BC Lions?
Yeah, as long as he's got gas in the tank, I think he's going to be a great signing there. I mean, the dude's 6'2", 300 pounds. Like, that's huge in the middle of that line, right? Tons of NFL experience. You add him with Pete Robinson there, Josh Banks. I think that D line is going to be pretty tough to run against.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's great that a dude with NFL experience is coming home to Canada and BC. Number one concern, of course, would be injuries. Yeah. This guy has had injury concerns since college and through the pros, and he's had a couple season-ending injuries with a dislocated kneecap. Imagine that.
No.
And then he had a torn pec, and he's dealt with minor injuries in between. So he's had some wear and tear, and he's played across the line. He's a big dude, like you said, who's played end at a 3-4, which is a good amount of punishment. So he could be a force. He could be a lockdown tackle in the middle of the line, especially when they play against the Bombers, against Brady Oliveira, if he can stay healthy.
Well, yeah.
That's a CFL legend, eh?
Yeah, Grover, right?
No one's going to beat that sack in a year. Was it 157?
Yeah.
No one's.
Wait, in 1 year, you said?
No one's going to beat that.
Oh, yeah.
Initial thoughts on Chad Kelly's suspension. Suspended for violating the CFL's gender-based violence policy. The CFL finally seems to have gotten something right. I'm sure some of the details will still come out, but I think the league sincerely was fair and tough enough on this guy. And they actually, good for them for completing the investigation. So I think they got it right. No preseason, minimum 9 games, mandatory counseling and assessments.
I like that it's a minimum 9 games, so that if he doesn't follow what he needs to follow to become a better person, they can make it longer, right? And we still haven't heard Chad Kelly come out and say anything against this. I personally, I think he's probably done in the CFL altogether anyways, because he's going to come out and say something stupid or balk against it, and hopefully Toronto just sees the light and cuts him. But they're like, I still want to see the rest of this investigation, what the Argos actually knew, what they let him get away with, and why it took them so long to even do anything about this, right? Because there's got to be, they're not innocent. The Argos are not innocent. The front office is not innocent in any of this. So I'd like to see now where that's going to go. But yeah, good move by the CFL, especially doing it before training camp, not allowing to become a circus or take attention away. And it sucks for Toronto because they are building, right? They're finally building. Hopefully we're getting more fans in the stands, and this guy goes out and becomes an idiot. So hopefully Dukes comes in and plays well enough that Chad Kelly can just go.
Cameron Dukes played well against the Bombers.
Yeah.
Probably would have won the game if he played the whole game.
Yeah, that's still an interesting.
No doubt,
I don't understand that whole.
Wow. Ryan Dinwiddie trying to be cute.
Yeah, you're winning the game with your backup quarterback. Let's take him out and put a third stringer in there. Why? Why?
Do they have to wait until? Do the Argos have to wait until the suspension's over to release him?
I don't know. I don't know what the rule is on that, but I don't see why they would have to. Like, I mean, if you release him, is some other CFL team actually going to go and sign him? But maybe if you release him, he can go to the UFL at some point. I don't know. Let him go to the UFL.
Yeah, I don't know what the whole thing is with the union and the agreements and being suspended and having conditions that you have to think. I don't know.
I'm sure there's probably some kind of appeal process here too that he's going to probably do, right? Or unless he's agreed to this already. I didn't see that in the press release. So
I didn't either. Let's move on to quick shots. Final four in the NHL predictions. Final four predictions in the NHL.
Sounds about right. I want to stick with Carolina because I picked them to win the Stanley Cup. And I'm going to go with Boston just because Jeremy Swayman is playing lights out, and he is tough to beat. Toronto struggled to do it, and Florida did not look good against it the other night. On the other side, I'm going to go the Colorado Avalanche and the Edmonton Oilers.
I got Colorado, Edmonton, Florida, Carolina. Rob Blake is committed to keeping PLD, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Smart move? No. This guy proving he's not reliable. He's not a team guy. How much more proof do you need? And this guy's averaging 8.5 a year. Other than Dustin Penner, like, I don't know if any other NHL has made more off potential. That's crazy. So no.
Yeah, but I feel like I would have tried to get rid of him if I could, but I don't think he has much of a choice. You're gonna buy him out. It looks bad on you for trading for this guy, all these assets, and then signing him to an 8-year contract like that. So not good look on Rob Blake. I'm surprised actually Rob Blake kept his job, really. Maybe because he's a alumni from the Kings. I don't know, but I would have probably tossed Rob Blake as well.
Well, they're in the middle of a retool, and they're pretty competitive other than this stupid-ass move.
Well, it wasn't totally a retool, right? I mean, besides goalie, they kept most of their guys. So
but they have 3 young guys with Byfield, and who else is playing that's young? They have that young defenseman. They have a young core coming up.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have to sign Byfield, who had a very good season at some point. And how are you gonna be able to do that with paying Dubois this $8 million plus a year?
Should the Toronto Maple Leafs clean house? Yeah,
it's time to move on from Keefe. Shanahan even blow that hole up. Look at trading Marner. Tavares has 1 more year. Let him go after that. They can't do the same thing over and over and expect different results. You know, they weren't any different this year than last year. It's not like they're like close to winning the cup. They reverted. They didn't get past the first round.
No, it's time to clean house. The formula, whatever formula it is killing them. 4 players eating up so much cap is killing them. Yeah,
but Marner's got a no trade. Tavares has a no trade. How are you going to get rid of them? So they're stuck.
Yeah, well, they can't keep the same administration going and making decisions moving forward.
No, but they're still going to be hamstrung and making other moves and trying to fill in pieces, right? So
they can't keep the same administration moving forward.
But they just brought in Brad Treveling too, right? So you're going to fire him after 1 year?
Ridiculous. Did the Aaron Hernandez jokes at the Tom Brady roast cross the line? Yes.
Yeah.
Make fun of him being weird in the dressing room. Make fun of him being, hiding his identity. Make fun of him being a murderer. But I think the making fun of him for killing himself was a bit much, for my personal taste in humor.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, he killed other people. Why even mention the guy's name? Because at the same time, he killed other people. Like, yes, he committed suicide himself, but there's other people's families out there that have to listen to this stuff. These guys joking about it when he killed other people. But yeah, roast to me, like, there's got to be some kind of line, right? Brady stopped them with more Robert Kraft jokes, but these jokes were flying all over the place.
Yeah. What kind of impact will OBJ have on the Miami offense?
I don't think much. He's going to be a third guy there. Plus, they already got Waddle and Tyreek Hill. They're not going to take away touches to those guys. Plus, your running backs, Mostert, Achane. He's the number 3. He didn't do a lot in Baltimore. What's he going to do in Miami?
You know what does to your coverage, though? You know what your safeties have to do in the middle of the field and your corners and your linebackers? That's going to mess up a lot of defensive strategies. Like, it even helped up the running game in Baltimore. So I think that would be great for Miami.
Oh, it'll be fine for Miami's offense. It won't be fine for OBJ. especially if he's not getting the touches, because at some point he's going to lose his mind. He doesn't want to just go out there and be a decoy. So I think it's going to run into trouble at some point with OBJ being like, hey, I'm a good enough player. Give me the ball too.
Did he lose his mind in Baltimore?
Yeah, but he was getting paid $15 million. Once Zay Flowers started to pick it up in Baltimore, OBJ became more of an afterthought, not offense. And even when he was the focal guy, Lamar really never gave him the ball very much. So he did not live up to his $15 million.
There's no way he can be expecting 50 catches if he's making $3 million on that payroll.
Maybe not 50 catches, but I'm sure he wants to be able to get at least 2 to 3 catches a game, kind of thing, right?
I could see that
to be involved. I don't know. I'd rather give the ball to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, Waddle, man.
What's his name? He likes to throw the ball a lot, and Tua's going to want to prove a lot to make that money. So he'll get 2 to 3. He'll get 2 to 3 a game.
Yeah, we'll see. As long as he doesn't lose his mind, it's not a bad move.
What is that? 34 catches in the season? 34 to 40? Yeah, why not? Why not?
We'll see. We'll see with his ego, though.
You know, I think but he has a reputation of being a good teammate. He's never really been a troublemaker in the dressing room.
But he's getting the ball, right? He was getting the ball at those times.
The ego he has is being a showman for the camera. That's his big issue.
Yeah.
And now being injured, but I don't know. He's always been a good teammate. He's always been a good team player, I found.
But he was getting the ball. We'll see now.
Even when he doesn't get a ball, he didn't say nothing.
For the price they paid, not a bad move for Miami at all. For a third wide receiver, and especially if Waddle or Tyreek Hill get hurt, you can fill in there kind of thing.
And if they're going to bracket Hill and Waddle, then you can't do anything but throw the ball to Odell Beckham because he'll be wide open.
How about Tyreek Hill if Odell is catching too many balls? How will he feel?
We'll have to worry about that later. What's his name? Mike McDonald. He's a pretty cool cat.
McDaniel.
He's a cool cat.
Mike McDonald is in Seattle.
What's he? Defense?
Yeah, he was defense for Baltimore, right?
There you go. Benny, you have anything to say to our friends?
You know what? Thanks a lot for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and have a good week.
And in the words of Ed Whalen, in the meantime and in between time, that's it. Another edition of Ray and Benny Talk Sports.
Hey, friends and neighbors, don't forget to check us out online on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Ray Benny Sports. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell us what you think.